everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, hi, my name is AJ. Today we are talking about the story and slight history of Shade Pelt. Today's episode is going to be kind of more of a Halloween themed. The story goes into slightly darker themes, but it's not exactly Halloween themed. So let's hop into it. Third time's the charm, I say, with this audio. Okay, let's actually begin. So how did this dude come into existence? So Fireblaze had a competition to redesign one of their villain characters a while ago. I really enjoyed redesigning it a lot. I love villain characters, especially because their designs can be so interesting. So we just began to talk about our different characters, and I asked if they could give me a prompt for a character. Then he did, and then we created Shaded Pelt. His story kept expanding from that, and then Fire made a animation with a few other characters that will play a big role in his story later on. Then we started discussing about making a map for him. We chose a song, and then I designed all the ref sheets and the thumbnail, and then they got it all set up. And then it was posted, leaving it to kind of get dropped off for a little while. But let's move on to... The story of Shade Pelt starts off in the Forest Clan territory, specifically Trunk Clan. The territory was full of pine trees and oak. The darkness of the forest made it easy to hide and attack anybody from the shadows. In the Trunk Clan nursery, we find Wolffern looking down at her small kit, her mate nowhere to be found. He often did this where he would disappear for quite a while, and even missed his son's birth because of his often disappearance. Wolffern couldn't help wondering what he did every time he disappeared, but before she could continue that thought, he walked in. He let a big stretch and then walked over to her and curled around and looking down at their small kit. "How was your guys' day?" he asked. As the small shaded kit's eyes looked straight up at him, they were big and round, and the younger apprentices showed him a little move. She said this wasn't the full truth. She thought to herself, he was actually being bullied by them, but she had shown him the move to make him feel better. "Oh, is that true?" his father said as he smirked. The small shaded kit stood up clumsily and swatted and jumped back. Her mate chuckled. "Shaded Fang, could you tomorrow show him some actual battle moves? If you have the time?" she asked softly. He looked around kinda awkwardly. No, I have an early hunting patrol, and then I promised to train with some apprentices," he said as he got up and walked out of the nursery just like that. Wolffern's face grew sad as the scene fades out. A few moons later, the small shaded kid peeked out of the nursery slowly. He didn't want to see Moonpaw or Midnight Paw. They were younger apprentices, but they were much bigger than him. They had been picking on him for the past few moons. He didn't tell anybody but his mother because he felt like they wouldn't believe him. And if they found out, that they would actually hurt him. He looked around camp, looking for his father, because he learned an actual move from his mother this time. It was a move where you went under their belly and swiped at him from behind. He thought he might be able to impress his father, so he would spend more time with him. He knew his mother would always be proud of him, which made him very happy. He loved his mother to bits. Then he spotted Midnight Paw and his lackey Moonpaw. They were looking around. They looked bored. And Shay Kit knew what that meant. He quickly turned around and ran into the den. One of these days I wouldn't have to hide from them anymore, he thought to himself. He walked over to his mother, who was making a new nest. He had just gotten big enough to have his own nest, and he was pretty excited about it, but would miss his mother's warmth. His mother looked down at him and gave him a soft smile. "Did you see your father?" she asked. "No," he said sadly. "Hopefully he'll be back before dark, and then you can show him." Shaded Kit excitedly pranced off to the corner of the den and began practicing. Later that day, his father came back just as it was about to be dusk. He ran over to his father, but his father just kept walking, basically ignoring him, and straight away walked over to his mother. He quickly followed and joined his mom. His father had this serious look on his face that kind of scared Shaded Kit. "Wolfern, I'm leaving you and the clan for someone," Shaded Fang said, with no empathy in his voice at all. He watched as his mother's face distorted into sadness. Before his mother could say anything, he just walked away. Shade Fang just walked out of camp, saying nothing but that. The terrible, terrible scream came from his mother. It echoed louder in his head than it actually was. He felt dizzy. His father just left for someone else. Kat started to look at Wolfern and him. She stood up and ran to the den, and he followed slowly. He felt so angry. How could his father just leave like that? No real goodbye, no real reason, just simply because he found a new mate? He curled up with his mother, looking up at her teary face. She gave him a fake smile. "It's okay, I'm fine," she said, tears still going down her face. His blood began to boil, really, now. His mother must have truly thought it was her fault that he left. Next few days, they just kind of sat together, moving place to place, but not really going anywhere past the nursery. He was the only one who had gotten up to bring his mother food, because if he didn't, she would have starved. After a moon of just doing this, she finally somewhat snapped out of it. She looked tired often, but she would now go out on her own, getting her own food, going on patrols and hunting. But when she was out, Midnight Paw and Moonpaw would come out and find him, pulling on his tail and pawing at his ears, nothing that would show that any proof that they actually hurt him. Each day when nightfall came, he would just cry to her and couldn't wait to be an apprentice. The day finally came up when their leader, Giant Star, jumped on the rock and called a clan meeting. I call a meeting of Trunk Clan. Giant Star yelled across the camps, his presence looming. Giant Star was a fierce cat. Out of all of the leaders, he was probably the fiercest, but after him, it was probably Crescent Star. He heard stories of her fierce attitude and strong willing nature, and also heard from his mother that she had gained 2 kits. Wolfern had said she had talked to her from time to time. Shaded Kit, step forth. Today you will become an apprentice. In the power of me, your new name will be Shaded Paw until the day you become a warrior. Shaded Paw, your mentor will be Pumpkin. A orange Tom stepped out of the crowd and came over to him and dipped his head. "I am Pumpkin," he said, touching his nose to Shaded Paw's. He was excited, even though Pumpkin wasn't originally from their clan. He was quite a respectable warrior and shown his loyalty plenty of times, even catching a traitor once. "When can we start training?" Shaded Paw asked excitedly. "We can start today. I'll show you around the territory," Pumpkin said, lashing his tail. Pumpkin was a large Tom, a scar across his face. His eyes were soft, like there was nothing to be afraid of. Everything Shaded Paw wished his father had. Pumpkin began showing him around the territory, all the rocks and boulders and different bushes that you could sneak, attack, or battle from. The Tom was quite smart. Pumpkin looked over to Shaded Paw. Is your mother all right? I know she has been kind of out of it since your father left. Did you know I had to leave my mate? I regret not fighting to stay, but her father was the leader at the time. Her father was very respectable, but he definitely wouldn't let anything harm his daughters. I just don't understand why your father left. 'Cause he had a choice to stay. It's just odd. Yeah, she's alright. I don't know either. Shaded Paw gritted his teeth together and felt anger go through his blood once again and clawed at the ground angrily. After that, Pumpkin didn't bring up his father again that day. Pumpkin showed him a new hunting technique to hunt birds. It's where you would go into the tree and you would follow them and jump as they started to fly, knocking to the ground and biting into their throat. It was a little unsafe, and the other mentors definitely didn't teach the apprentices how to do it, but Shaded Paw enjoyed it. He enjoyed knocking them out of the tree and biting into their necks. Sometimes he would imagine that it was his father in the tree, and he would quickly climb up and bite into its neck as he fell to the ground with it. He would try to shake the thought off, but it just felt so right to him. A few days later, he went out by himself. Pumpkin had told him just to practice catching birds and other prey today, and that they would get into the more interesting things tomorrow. Shaded Paw didn't mind this, however. He found it kind of peaceful being in the forest by himself and hunting, with nothing really going on. He walked and kept hearing noises behind him. He kind of shrugged it off and thought it was just an overly curious mouse. He went through the day pretty normally until he stopped and lifted his nose and caught a familiar scent. Midnight Paw and Moon Paw. They both came out of the bush behind him and circled him. His heart started to pound and he started to breathe heavy. What do they want? He thought to himself. Midnight Paw smiled and lunged at him. He dodged the first attack, but couldn't dodge the next. His claws were out, and it caught his ear. He pulled away, ripping. Instant pain shot through him, but he shook it off. Midnight Paw stepped back triumphantly, and then Moon Paw stepped up. He lunged at him, taking different swipes in different directions. He caught the back of his leg. He felt a wince of pain going through his back leg. Then he came forward, and he jumped back, but his wounded leg made him jerk. This left an opening for Moonpaw to get his shoulder. His shoulder started to bleed a lot more than his back leg, leading his focus to be on that. This is when Shaded Paw realized that they were actually trying to kill him. Then they made a duo attack on him. He managed to turn around and start running. He started feeling lightheaded as he kept running. He turned back and tripped over something. Midnight Paw had caught up to him and lifted up his paw to scratch at him one more time. This blow landed straight onto his eye. Shaded Paw squinted his eye and got up and kept running. He turned back once again, and then BAM! He ran straight into a tree. His head slowly falling to the ground as everything started to blur. He saw Midnight Paw and Moon Paw's blurry silhouettes in his vision until it went fully black. He slowly sat up, dazed, and he shook his head. He looked around, expecting to be in the hunting grounds of his ancestors, but all he saw was the medicine den and their medicine cat preparing a pulp in the corner. "What's going on?" he muttered. "Thank goodness you're awake. How are you feeling?" the young medicine cat asked as he walked over to him. "I think I'm doing okay," he said woozily.
I'm gonna be stopping the story really quickly. I got sick for the rest of this recording, so my voice kind of sounds a little weird, so sorry if it's a little annoying. I wish I could fix it, but I want to get this video out before Halloween, and it's gonna be posted on Halloween Day if I'm lucky. So back to our story. "What happened?" Shaded Paw asked. The small medicine cat shuffled his paws as he opened his mouth. "Your mother and your mentor started to get worried when you weren't back at camp at sundown. So they went out looking for you, and they found you all banged up like this." Shaded Paw looked around at his wounds. He felt anger go through him. He thought to himself, "I swear one day I'll get them back for this," he grumbled, but more into his head than anything. "So, what happened to you?" Sage Lily asked as he approached him slowly with some new herbs in his paws. "It was Midnight Paw and Moon Paw," he said frustratedly. "Why would they do this?" the small Tom asked curiously as he pushed some herbs to Shaded Paw. "I don't know. How about you ask him yourself?" he snapped as he took the herbs. The small medicine cat, slightly surprised, stepped back and turned and walked out of the den, leaving Shaded Paw just to his own thoughts. A few days later, most of Shaded Paw's wounds had finally healed. He stayed wary of Moon Paw. He would have stayed wary of Midnight Paw as well, but he had gotten banished after he admitted that him and Moon Paw did it. Moon Paw had ratted him out of him being the one who convinced him that it would be the right thing. But Moon Paw he stayed away from completely. The Tom eyed him from across the camp at times, but never much more than that after Midnight Paw got banished. But he finished up his training and watched as the days went by until his warrior ceremony was upon him. He watched as Giant Star jumped on the rock. He began, "I call all cats in Trunk Clan for a clan meeting. Today we will be making 2 apprentices into warriors. Step up, Shaded Paw. Do you promise to hold the code and protect your clan with your life?" Shaded Paw stepped up a bit and said, "I do. By the power in me, today you are no longer Shaded Paw. Today you will be known as Shaded Pelt." Shaded Pelt dipped his head and then moved back into the crowd and joined his mother. He sat right next to her, and they cuddled a little. As Moon Paw stepped up, his warrior ceremony had been delayed after the incident, so now his ceremony was now. Giant Star did the whole thing with the Moon Paw, and his warrior name was now Moonheart. Shaded Pelt felt resentment because he felt the name didn't suit him at all. It should have been something more like Foxheart or something, he grumbled to himself. His mother had looked over to him at that point, and she kind of just nudged him, but he didn't shake the thought off as he watched Moonheart join his mate, and they sat together all curled up. This made Shaded Pelt shudder, because why would he be so happy when he should feel guilty of what he did to Shaded Pelt multiple moons ago? But he would never forget what he did. But he shook it off. Moonpaw was not Moonheart was not his problem right now. He had recently sent his father across the border into Root Clan territory, and he had a plan. That night, he followed the scent trail to his father across the border and keeping a low profile whenever he came across any Root Clan cats. But not many of them would be out right now since it was getting so late and a cold breeze was starting to come upon them. Soon he found a small den in a hillside. He watched from afar as he curled into a bush. He watched as the most recognizable scent came across. His father walked into the small den, and he could see a she-cat with a turquoise collar, heavy with kits. His father curled around the she-cat, giving her a nuzzle. This made Shade Pelt's blood boil with anger. He doesn't deserve happiness after what he did to his first mate, my mother. Shaded Pelt growled under his breath. But a plan began to swirl in his mind, and he knew he would be coming back next morning early. He began going back to camp and ready for his plan next morning. The next morning finally came. Shaded Pelt went out early. No one was out in the clan clearing as he left, but that was not his problem at all. He began trekking through the forest and making it back to the same hillside that he was at last night. He watched the den from afar until his father poked his head out of the den, and he began to follow him slowly but surely, keeping an eye on him at all points of his daily routine, it seemed. At one of the points in time, Shaded Pelt realized that his father was near the ravine. He was taking a small stroll against it. It had a nice breeze, it seemed. But Shaded Pelt was not here to enjoy a breeze. He walked out of the bushes behind his father, and his father turned. His eyes lit up with shock. Barely any recognition in his father's eyes, but there was some. A screwed-up grin went across Shaded Pelt's face as he lunged towards his father. Him and his father tussled for a minute, but his father had seemed to grow weak. Then he pushed the tom near to the cliff's side. His father was beginning to slip as he grabbed onto his paws. "I hope it was all worth it," Shaded Pelt whispered into his father's ears as he let go on his paws and pushed him. Content warning right here. The next scene is a little descriptive, so I would skip to the next section. Shaded Pelt looked down. Sharp stones are at the bottom of this ravine. He looked down. A stone went straight through his father's throat and back. A smile came across his face. An evil smile. He just turned around and went back to a stone-faced expression as he went back to camp and licked off any blood he had gotten for the small tussle he had with his father. He walked back into camp, slowly and calm, like nothing happened. It just felt so right. It was so satisfying to finally get the revenge that his father so deserved. If I get rid of everybody who's wronged me, it came across Shaded Pelt's mind. This would feel so satisfying, he thought, watching all of the ones who have wronged him get defeated under his own paws. A grim smile came across his face. As he walked into camp, he spotted his mother and walked over to her, purring. "How was your day, Mom?" he asked. She let off a gentle smile. "It was pretty good," she purred. Him and his mother began to banter a little until the sun set. The next morning, he got up early again, and he began to follow Moonheart. He followed him through the forest, stalking him like he was prey. The Tom was quite graceful. He softly walked, and he kind of hummed to himself. This almost made Shade Pelt sympathetic for what he was about to do, but through the bushes, Moonheart looked back, and Shaded Pelt leaped out, lunging straight for the Tom's throat. The Tom's eyes looked terrified, and then dulled as he dropped to the ground as Shaded Pelt bit through his throat. Shaded Pelt ripped it. The blood splattered onto his paws and his mouth as his eyes grew wide and a smile came across his face, the satisfaction of watching one of the people that hurt him so badly when he was young fall at his paws. He turned around and walked for a little bit until he suddenly stopped when he heard a rustling in front of him. His mother came out of the bushes in front of him. Her eyes grew shocked with terror. Why do you have blood on your face? She said. Her eyes were clearly shocked and terrified. His calm demeanor shifted to a smile. He would be happy to tell his mother what he did. She'd be so proud of him, he thought to himself. Taking my rightful revenge. First, Shaded Fang, the one who destroyed you and broke your heart. Then the wretched Moon Paw, and now on to Midnight Paw. His mother's expression looked mortified. She stepped back and turned around and began running. He just slowly followed, thinking to himself, one day she'll thank me, even if right now she thinks I did something wrong. But that doesn't matter right now. His plan would be complete soon, just after he finally tracked down Midnight Paw, who recently was scented in the territory, like Shaded Fang, but his is actually nearby. Shaded Pelt thought grimly to himself. He finally washed off the blood on him and walked back to camp. The cats were gathered around. It looked like a meeting had started, but something was off. They all turned to him, looking terrified. He looked around for his mother, and she was just looking at her paws. Did she betray me? He thought to himself. Did she tell the clan? He felt so confused, but Giant Star was sitting on the massive rock in the clearing, his gaze angry. Shaded Pelt, you've been accused of murder. Is this true? Giant Star demanded. His thundering voice echoed through the clearing. It is true, but it's for a good reason, he said coolly. A good reason? My mate is dead, Moonheart's mate yelled across the crowd. Some of the clanmates tried to hold her back. She did not reach him. He knew what he did was right, but why does no one else see that? Since this is true, you are banished, Shaded Pelt. You are no longer welcome in Trunk Clan territory ever again, and if you're ever spotted, you will be killed on sight, Giant Star said. Giant Star's voice echoed across the clearing. It was thundering like lightning. Shaded Pelt looked up a little shocked. But he did the right thing. He took revenge for the ones that have wronged him, he thought to himself. But he angrily turned around and stalked out of the gathering. Cats looked at him like they had seen a monster. But his revenge is not complete just yet, he thought. After he was done finding Midnight Paw, he would come back and take them all out, and watch as his former clan, the corrupted thing it was, crumbling. It only took him a day to find Midnight Paw. The Tom looked a lot more ragged. He had new scars on him, but he was also so skinny. But there was still muscle. He was still quite strong, clearly. Shaded Pelt took his time and waited around for a little. Finally, when Midnight Paw turned his back while he waited, he lunged out and began attacking him. Landing on his back, digging his claws, Midnight Paw, the still strong Tom, easily knocked him off. He's definitely not as weak as Moonheart was. He was always lacking, always needing orders from someone else. Shaded Pelt lunged at the Tom again, this time using a method a little unorthodox. He attacked him, then backed up and jumped into a tree, using his hind legs to bounce off of it and dive straight into the Midnight Paw. This made the Tom unsteady and made him easy to attack. He knocked the Tom over and managed to get him on his side. Midnight Paw quickly pushed up and got up from Shaded Pelt's grasp. The Tom clearly kept his warrior training and not lost his skill, but Shaded Pelt was a lot faster than the bulky Tom, and he quickly lunged to his throat, quickly ripping it out and watching as the skinny yet bulky Tom dropped to the ground, the blood clearly on Shaded Pelt's muzzle. He licked it, the taste of blood, such an interesting flavor, he thought. The satisfaction of this kill would lead into his victory over his once clan to be destroyed. He began stalking through the forest. When he heard running coming his direction, suddenly his mother came out in front of him. He smiled, thinking that she must have came to her senses, but she didn't stop running. She ran and clamped down on his throat. His eyes shocked. Why? He thought as he dropped to the ground and faded out. That's the end. I hope you liked Shaded Pelt's story. This one's definitely a longer video than I wish it would, but happy Halloween, everybody.